IT for very limited types of applications. If you think about history of IT, we tended to use it to run big transactional processing systems, big number crunching systems, in the back office. As IT began to move into the sort of the world of distributed computing, it became cheaper, it became easier to access. We started to use IT in an operational sort of world. Well, we've crossed another barrier. We're now into a world where IT is becoming hugely abundant. We all carry around in our pockets smartphones with huge amounts of processing power, huge amounts of compute power. We have social apps that we use every day in our lives. And how do we actually leverage that power to address the challenges of society is one of the issues. Because I think at the moment we have the technology, we have the compute power. What we haven't figured out is what to do with it, how to create the right outcome. And I would actually make a sort of a broad generalisation that everybody has better IT at home or on their phone than they do at work or when they engage with government. Anybody care to disagree? Most government IT, like most large organisational IT, grew up in the ages of IT shortage, where IT was expensive and difficult. We changed the way people worked to work the way the computer did. The challenge now with IT becoming abundant is how can we change the IT? How can we use the IT to make the lives of people, the lives of government, the work in education easy? And that's a brand new challenge that most people haven't addressed yet. We're still looking at it from a technology point of view. The example I would sort of relate it to would be something like railways. When railways were new, people focused on building the railway, on building the infrastructure, on actually creating the lines that were actually used. Once the lines exist, the focus shifts. The focus becomes, how do I make money by running trains? And in a way, we're moving from a world of having to create unique IT solutions to a world where it's about we can consume IT, whether we think of it as cloud or big data. These things are platform capabilities. These are shared capabilities we should be using to deliver business outcomes, to social outcomes to people. And we need to shift the focus in that kind of way. Simply put, you can say that there are three themes that crop up across government. Cost reduction or efficiency, doing the work of government in a more cost-effective way is a big issue in all government, whether that's in healthcare, reducing the cost of healthcare, whether it's in finding ways to reduce the cost of government from providing offices, from providing manual sort of labour to actually work through processes, getting the citizen to do more of the work of government, those kind of things. It covers a huge sort of range of issues. Employee empowerment. If you look at most government organisations, a lot of what people are actually doing within those organisations is could be characterised as process work, of taking forms in at one side, doing something to them, and putting them out at the other side of the desk. One of the things that we can now do with this abundance of IT is we're looking at a further range of automation, further range of changing jobs. And I would actually make the claim that that sort of layer of process work could all be eliminated with the new sort of availability of IT. We could automate out those processes to reduce the costs of government. But what that means is we're looking at a different model for how employees actually deliver value to the sort of agencies. And this is sort of ties in with concepts like big data, which is the key thing in most organisations, and it's very true in many governments, is that they're information poor. They're often data rich, but information poor. They've got lots of data, but it's hard to get at that data. And most people working in most government agencies don't have access to the information that they would ideally like to be able to do their jobs in the most efficient way possible. There's classic sort of situations in organisations where a few reports are created at the top of the organisation and then data sort of trickles down through the organisation slowly, over weeks or months, often through spreadsheets and these things. So most people are doing their jobs on the basis of out-of-date information. and they're reacting to the figures that they see. Whereas it would be more efficient in many cases to be proactive, to actually be able to address the issues before they become critical, to look for trends. So big data isn't about big data. I think big data is a horrible term. Nobody in their right mind wants big data. What everybody wants is that data is processed to create actionable insights, information that they can actually use to make decisions and speed up the process of making those decisions. Healthcare has been mentioned a couple of times, and the use of sensors. Collecting of information is fine, but it's what you do with that information that is important. I would actually make the claim that the way we run our healthcare systems around the world is fairly stupid, in that we wait for people to get sick and then we try to fix them. Now, I may be strange, but I prefer not to be sick. I'd rather that my healthcare provider had access to information from my smartwatch, that's measuring my blood pressure and measuring how many steps I take, and whether I've got sort of too much cholesterol in my bloodstream and all of those things, and proactively manage my health, my wellness, to keep me well, rather than waiting for me to get sick and then trying to fix me. So the key with all this data, the key with all this abundance of technology, abundance of data, is changing the process. And changing the process in such a way that is convenient to the citizen. The problem with a lot of government IT is what we tend to do is take the processes that have grown up in the bureaucracy, the processes that have been siloed in the bureaucracy over, in many cases, hundreds of years, and simply take those and publish those on a web page. That's not citizen engagement. That's not how the apps on your mobile phone work. The apps on your mobile phone are simple to use, they're intuitive, they're easy to get, they're updated on an almost daily basis, they're graphical. That typically isn't the way we interact with bureaucratic processes. We have old style, what I would call green screen, for those of you old enough to remember green screens, applications, text-heavy, menu-heavy applications, and simply publishing those to a web page or to a mobile device. That doesn't create an engaging experience for citizens. Because citizens don't have things happen in their lives in line with the way government processes work. Citizens have life events. They have a child born, a child goes to school, leaves school, gets a job, you get married, you have children, you die. Those processes don't typically line up with government bureaucracies. You have to, in each of those processes, talk to multiple organisations, multiple channels. And they all tend to ask you things like, what's your name, what's your address, date of birth, and so on. For it to be a compelling, engaging experience for the citizen, we have to reframe government to address the needs of the citizen, so that there's value for the citizen, which will derive value for the government. That by, if we make it easy for the citizen to use, easy for the citizen to manage their own data, their own interaction, that reduces the pressure, the cost on government to do it. But that's not free. We can only do that if we make government react to the way citizens work and the way citizens live. And I think a big mistake we often make is actually, simply just taking what we've already got and slapping it onto a web page. That really isn't mobility or engagement. And mobility is not devices. Mobility is being able to do the work you need to do, the thing you need to do, on a device with a small screen. You can't have lots of text. You can't put a 5 million line financial report. You can, and it can be quite funny the first time you do it to somebody, but it's not the way to actually help people make decisions. You've got to be able to present the information on a small screen in a way that people can understand it, can use it to make decisions, and can then act upon those decisions. So it's about the business process. It's about the outcome you want to enable. And that's key to the process. It's not about collecting lots of data. It's not about having lots of mobile devices. It's about how you use them to deliver the right thing to the right people at the right time in the right way. And hopefully with the right level of security. Because security and privacy are big issues. There are lots of roadblocks, the one I've just talked about, which is that typically the way we approach these things from a government point of view is we take our existing bureaucratic processes and expose them. And then we wonder why nobody likes them, people don't understand them or find them hard to use. We need to make sure we're targeting the right people. One of the aims of sort of increasing use of automation, increasing use of big data would be to target our programs at the right people at the right time in the right way. The best time to deal with the closure of a factory is just before it closes, so that you can go and meet with the people, you can help them to look for new jobs, you can help them with new educational opportunities, you can find ways to help them actually sort of address their financial issues before the factory actually closes. And you need to release more resources for the front line. Ideally, what we need to do is automate a lot of the back-end processing, the process work, to release more resources. And we need to understand the cost-benefit of what we're doing. What is the value, both for the government and the citizen, of what we're doing? And then we need perfect delivery to make this happen. Perfect delivery is the price of entry for all of these programs. There's no point in having these services if you can't deliver them. I mean, sort of large countries like Kazakhstan, that means being able to deliver services in a mobile way across the vast geography, and that applies to things like healthcare. So, in a sense, IT in government's got to stop thinking about IT in government. It needs to start thinking about how you change the processes of government to make them more efficient, and how you actually engage with citizens to improve the value proposition for citizens and to actually move forward with citizen engagement. And it's not just about transacting with citizens. If you're going to ask citizens to make decisions and consult them for their opinion, you've also got to inform them. You've got to engage with them. You've got to collaborate with them. And ultimately, you've got to empower them to be able to actually drive government policy. This is an extension of a model that was put forward by the OECD around sort of the levels of government engagement. And a lot of people tend to focus on the transacting the business of government, but it's actually more than that. It's about building relationships. And it's about targeting it, as I said, making sure that you target these things more efficiently, so that you don't use the sort of scattergun approach. Oh, we'll give that benefit to everybody because it's easier than trying to find out whether particular people should or shouldn't have. There's a lot of sort of things that we need to address in the way that government actually works, to actually sort of target things on citizens. There are these 7 areas. So, things like citizen insight. We've got to understand the citizens. We've got to take an all-of-government approach. We've got to actually cross processes across government, which culturally is very difficult in most governments. Most governments, the departments treat each other like the enemy. And we need to break down a lot of those sort of cultural issues. We need to have shared services, which have been mentioned by a couple of people as well already, to actually support all of that kind of service delivery. And that means the IT organisation has to change. The IT has to align around providing shared services. I don't like the term cloud. I've worked with a number of governments on cloud. And cloud's one of those terms that covers an awful lot of different solutions. What I think we need in most organisations is a consumable platform that provides access to IT resources, as well as things like big data analytics engines, social media engines, and mobility as part of an overall platform of services. So it's building a platform on which you can deliver outcome-based solutions. IT becomes a service provider to the business to enable it to meet its goals. You'll hear a lot about these sort of enablers in the rest of these sessions. There are detailed sessions on cloud and a number of other things that actually go to make up these things. So I'm not going to labour these at this time. I was just going to talk about a couple of examples very briefly. I'm just going to mention the Flemish Government one because we have a speaker tomorrow who will be going into the sort of Flemish Government experience. So speaking from the Flemish Government, we can talk about their sort of work in enabling their services, about trying to build this citizen engagement. I was just going to mention the UK Government G-Cloud. This is something they created a joint industry and government sort of work group to actually come up with policies around G-Cloud, and I represented HP as part of that sort of process. And one of the things you notice is it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. You do still need to be able to provide, constrained resources that are secure within a particular area. Ministry of Justice, for example, over on the left-hand side of that picture, they want to talk to the police, the courts, the probation services. They're not really that interested in talking to the rest of government, but they'd like to consume shared services. So when we talk about shared services, shared does not mean open to everybody. Shared can be partitioned, can be secured. So when we looked at this with the UK government, one of the big areas we looked at was how we could provide secure cloud services, cloud that met government security needs, because not all cloud services are created equal as far as service levels, as far as security. So, very important to look at those kind of issues. This is what we're working on with the Open Group, along with some other companies as well, which is what's called boundaryless information flow in healthcare. The idea being, how do you actually improve healthcare by joining up the pieces, both horizontally and vertically? And this is an area where we're developing solutions, starting for how do you actually integrate within hospitals, within health regions, secondary care and social care kind of aspects into it, as well as the traditional primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare sort of suppliers kind of model. How do you actually manage information flows in that session? Big questions in here. How do you actually make it medicine patient-centric rather than case-centric, which is an important shift in the kind of the mental model for healthcare. This is just another example I was going to just touch on, which is for one of the local authorities in the UK, Norfolk County. Again, Norfolk's, by British standards, is a large county. Most of the people don't live in the big towns yet. So they have the need to actually provide services in a distributed way and find efficient ways to actually provide government services rather than just getting everybody to come into offices in the big towns all the time. So that was all I was going to say. I almost kept to time, so that's another success. Thank you.
Interesting presentation on megatrends and our past speakers, so again, thank you. I'll introduce our next speaker. It's Dr. Johannes Tullesson. Dr. Tullesson is working for the global business software company, SAP, and is the head of big data business development for Middle, that is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and Eastern Europe. The multi-award winning Johannes has worked internationally in internet startups and global ICT corporations with a strong focus on business development, sales, business strategy planning, program management, and change management. Currently, Dr. Tullesson is responsible for the market adoption of big data solutions and platform concepts for the region's Middle and Eastern Europe. He completed his degrees in management and information systems at the Ivy League universities of Cambridge University in the UK, ETH Zurich in Switzerland, and the London School of Economics and Political Science in the UK. So, Dr. Tullesson.
So, I've got good news for you. I only have 5 slides. The next part is that I will obviously try to show you from I'm not doing the magic. So, I brought my own laptop because I will show you some demos. Because I think the previous talks we had were great examples about the outlook, what can be done in terms of IoT, in terms of the vision, in terms of the market adoption, in terms of what the telecommunications can do for the government. And as we discussed before, I would like to show you some practical examples. So if you sit now on the left side, it's your own fault because you will see a lot more on the right side. So if you feel more comfortable, feel free to move on the right side later on, but hopefully you can see something. Before I start, since I'm based in Germany, so thank you very much first of all for the invitation to present you the topic. I would also like to introduce you my colleagues here from Kazakhstan. So this is the nice lady on the third row. So please stand up. And also my other colleagues, so please stand up. And they're also from SAP. And as I said, if you have any questions afterwards, or if you don't like the talk, so they're definitely there for you after the session, also for follow-up conversations. So please take the chance later on. If you like some examples, approach them so we can take the discussion further on. As I said, my name is Johannes Tullesson. I'm based in SAP. SAP, who don't know the company, do you know the company SAP? It's like Microsoft or competitions like Oracle, so that definitely still have a big place in the market. We're focusing on the business software and also on big data. I'm leading the big data business development for the region Middle, which is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and Eastern Europe, which is basically also like Russia and also the Balkan states. And I'm more than happy to give you now in the next 30 minutes, within 5 slides, an overview about the big data topics, a definition of big data, and then last but not least, I'm going to show you 5 to 6 very nice showcases. Showcases what we have done at customer sites and also real-time projects. The discussion, could you close the door, please? Could you close the door, please? Thank you. Okay, so the discussion we had before is that we talked about Internet of Things, we talked about the G-Cloud, we talked about e-government, and I think the problems we're having here, what I said before, but also my previous speaker said before, we're having a lot of data, but the problem is how to make use of the data. We call it how to make the data smart. And big data, as you probably know, is not just a trend anymore. As you can see, the curve, I'm not going to explain to you in detail, but I think the nice part is definitely where it comes into mobile, where more and more people are using mobile phones to access, for instance, Facebook. Okay? When you have maybe children or younger children, quite often when they now go to shops and when they look to buy a new product, what do they usually do? Nowadays, they go online, maybe on the laptop, check for a new IT product, maybe like a new iPhone. Then they go to a smartphone. Then they go to the shop and get information about the shop. Then they go in the shop online with the smartphone and check the best prices online, ask via WhatsApp the friends if there's a voucher available, the friends will reply, they go back home and order the phone online maybe for 30% discount than the original price. So how you use the data has changed a lot. And we always say the terms big data is like a move from a normal mobile phone, maybe a Nokia phone, to a smartphone. So you have on a normal Nokia phone, for the ones who are still using one, you have your address book, you have got maybe 100 contacts. But when you have the smartphone, you have much more. You have got your photos, you have got your email, you have got your internet, you have got your obviously address book, and you use it in the end still as a telephone. So it's much more data. And the key is that we want to have the data right now in the right context for the right process. So when I basically arrived here and I wanted to know how do I get to this place, obviously a colleague picked me up, but I checked it before on the Google Maps. And I would have decided to walk myself to this location here. I don't want to wait on Google Maps maybe each time 5 seconds until it shows me the next direction. I want to have it real time in and right now. If you take pictures, probably you're not only taking one picture anymore. You usually take more pictures because who cares, you have enough space anyway on the mobile phone. And when you take pictures, you also want to see them instantly on the phone right now. You don't want to wait 5 seconds. That's the reason here why we say also at SAP that big data is not just a trend anymore, it's a technology, it's a wave which is coming. And the big data part becomes then interesting when you can analyze the data in real time, but also then as a next step to make some predictions. Predictions in terms of weather forecasts, predictions in terms of security issues when the expo starts, when maybe some visitors arrive so that you can redirect the traffic more efficiently. This becomes then real big data. And that's the reason why I would like to show you, first of all, how we define big data at SAP. Now that's what I meant. You're sitting all on the left, so if you have time, move to the right. I'm more than happy to stand up. In the first row, there's still some seats. Basically, I'm not going to show you the picture now in detail because obviously that's something which is not as interesting for you. What I will show you is, first of all, what actually big data means. I'm sure most of you know what big data means, but I still would like to cover a few aspects in terms of the big data. With the big data part, as you know, it's about volume of data. But as we said before, volume of data doesn't make any sense if you're not able to make sense of data. So you should also make the data smart. Yeah? So volume and the volume of data. Another part which is also important is veracities, because you want to have the data in real time and don't want to wait very long. We had that explanation before when you're, for instance, creating a report now. Quite often companies use the reports created via Excel, and you use the presentation with data which are usually 1 or 2 days old. But I think especially in sales, at the last day of the quarter, you want to have real-time data. And that's the reason why you should use the latest also, let's say, mobile apps technology so that you get the real-time data right now when you're in a meeting with your sales team, for instance. So that's important. The veracity is that you have the data in real time. And the last part, as I said before, you have to make the data smart, because otherwise you will see here in the funnel, if you only have big data, yeah, because questions always coming up, what does actually big data mean? You have 30 million data sets or 15 terabyte, that actually doesn't really matter. It matters that you make these big data in your industry, in the governmental, for instance, scenario, in this use case, smart. And this is where you need analytics, you need data scientists who are able actually to give you the right, let's say, knowledge about this data, making them, let's say, more feasible for you in your own business process. And once you have achieved this, then you can actually look into the innovation part. Then you can say, okay, in the government area, you look into fraud management. You want to understand who are actually the taxpayers. Then you can look into the details about smart cities. You can predict what kind of visitors are coming through the expo. So you can maybe, as I said before, try to focus on certain public transport. So I think this is the area where people